Hello everyone and welcome to the channel. I'm Emmanuel, I'm an Airbus A330 pilot, and welcome to the descent preparation tutorial for the iniBuilds Airbus A330 in Microsoft Flight Simulator. Easily the best default aircraft in any simulator just yet. So we are slowly approaching our destination airport. We can see it's around 140 nautical miles to our top of descent, and it is already coming into view on the nav display, and this is a very good time to start preparing for our arrival into Palma. Now, every approach preparation starts by getting the latest weather, so let's go into the EFB, onto the dashboard and hit the update button in order to get the latest weather that's available. We can see down here a QNH of 1026, and whenever a QNH is received, we should pre-select it over here. So let's go to local 1026 and then right back to standard. And if you do this in an acceptable time, then the aircraft is basically just going to maintain the altitude while you are in the process of pre-selecting your QNH. So 1026 is in. Now with that out of the way, we can go ahead and start our arrival preparation. This is the point where I would take my charts out, but unfortunately the chart client inside the simulator is failing on me once again, so let's put that away and instead use our trusted Navigraph charts, which we know are reliable and working. Now, we know already that it's going to be the Lunik to Papa arrival, and we can also pre-select the charts for the ILS Zulu approach onto runway 24 left today. Last but not least, we can grab our parking stand chart, which is also going to become handy throughout the flight. Now with all of that out of the way, let's go right down into the FMS and follow the arrival procedures. So the logical sequence here that Airbus wants you to use when making your FMS entries is basically a little stair. So from flight plan, RATNAV, progress, performance, fuel prediction, secondary flight plan. And that's it. So let's start on the flight plan page. Over here we are going to start by comparing all the restrictions that we've got in the flight plan and all the waypoints with the start. So we are starting out at Lunik, which is above flight level 100. Now we can verify this up here on the plan page with the constraints selected. And this gives us the best possible overview. So going down here, we've got Lunik above flight level 100. From there we proceed to the slew point at 20 miles from Cap de Pera VOR with a maximum of 250 knots. So going down here, we've got the slew point at 250 knots, and that's 20 miles from Cap de Pera, as we can see on the nav display. So Cap de Pera is going to be our initial approach fix, and from there we join the ILS Zulu approach onto runway 24 left. So out of Cap de Pera we fly towards Bavoum above 4,500, which we've got down here, and then from there we proceed towards Ubumu, and Ubumu is above 2,500, as we can see on the nav display over there. From Ubumu we continue to the final approach point, which is at 7.5 DME, so that's the EPAL 7 point down here, and from there we've got a 3-degree glide slope, as we can see down here, down to a minimum of 239 feet. The A330 is a category Charlie aircraft, and in case of go around, climb on the runway heading to 420 feet, turn left not before radial 193 from Juliet Oscar Alpha, maximum 185 knots, and follow radial 193, climbing to 3000. So in here you can see the missed approach goes straight ahead to cross radial 193 or 420, and then we follow the radial 193 outbound, climbing to 3000 feet. So that much about our FMS route. Now let's go on with the next page, which is going to be the RATNAV page. Now on the RATNAV you could enter any VOR you might be using. So for example, for our approach we could enter Charlie Delta Papa on the right side and then maybe Juliet Oscar Alpha on the left side. But do note that the aircraft would auto-tune the VORs once you get closer to them anyway. We can also verify the ILS frequency 109.3 and the course 236, both of which agree, well, within 1 degree, that's fine, with our chart. So now that we're done with the RATNAV, let's move on to the progress page, and on here we are going to enter our destination runway, So Lima Echo Papa Alpha 24 left, and we're going to put that into here. This provides us with the ability to get our distance to the destination runway at any given time, which is significantly going to help us with our preparation and monitoring of the approach. Now from here we move to the right onto the performance page. Clicking next page, we get to the descent page, and over here we can pre-select our descent speeds. Now 0.79, 288 is the econ speed. We could increase this, for example, to 0.80 and 300 knots, and manually override this, like this. Now going on to the next phase, we end up on the approach page, and over here we are going to fill in the landing information that we have available. So for our weather, we are looking at the wind 250 at 6. You always enter the mean wind over here, not the variable. So 250 at 6, temperature 19, QNH 1026. So we've got 250 at 6, 19 degrees, and QNH 1026, which we can enter right up here if the menu isn't blocking us. We cross-check our transition altitude, which in this case is wrong. You can see on the chart over here it's supposed to be 6,000, but it reads 5,000 here, so we've got to correct that to 6,000. On the right hand side we are going to enter the barometric minimum, which according to the chart is 239 feet. And last but not least, we can select our landing configuration, and you can see how slow the approach speeds in the A330 are. So if you want to make your life simple, you can do landing config 3 on almost all runways. So let's select config 3 for this approach today. This should increase our V-approach and VLS. Apparently the iniBuilds doesn't do that, which is definitely a bug that I am going to report to them right after recording this video. Now, since the V-approach doesn't change over here, we are going to stay on config full today, but normally config 3 would be the standard to be used on most landings. Next up, let's go on to the next phase and enter the engine out acceleration altitude, and we are normally using the MSA for that, unless the missed approach altitude is below the MSA. Since today the MSA is 3000 and the missed approach altitude is 3000 as well, the answer is easy. Engine out acceleration altitude for the go-around, 3000 feet. From here we move on to the fuel prediction page, and over here we get to see our extra fuel and time that we have brought with us. And last but not least, we go over to the secondary flight plan. We can copy the active, and now you could either prepare a parallel runway, or you could, for example, use it to prepare some shortcuts, such as, for example, if you want to know which altitude you should have at the slew point, if you want to take a shortcut towards Bavoum, which you are pretty likely to get, then you could go ahead and insert Bavoum immediately behind the slew point, and then it should update the altitude prediction over the slew point. Unfortunately, this is currently bugged in the iniBuilds, so it doesn't work in here. Hopefully they are going to fix that for a future revision though. Another very nice feature of the secondary flight plan is if you go to init and then next page. In the real world it looks rather different from what we see over here. In the real world, the init B page of the secondary flight plan would tell you your expected landing weight, which is a nice little shortcut you can use for your landing performance calculations. Unfortunately, not simulated at this moment in the iniBuilds aircraft. So with that out of the way, we are done with our FMS setup, so let's go ahead and have a look at our airport itself. Landing runway 24 left has a length of 3000 meters, and we can vacate either Sierra 1 or Sierra 2. Now, let's go ahead and do some landing performance calculations. Unfortunately, we do not have a landing performance calculator in the simulation for the time being. but we can always use our trusted SimBrief for that. So let's go ahead and open SimBrief over here, go to landing performance, and take our landing weight, which I'm just going to round from the gross weight down there. So the eCam tells me our gross weight is 166.7. Let's take 166 tons, then we are on the safe side. So landing weight 166 tons, flap setting full, brake setting, we'll start with low, reverse credit yes, VRF additive 5. Now for the weather conditions, we have the wind 250 at 6. The temperature is currently 19 degrees and the QNH 1026. Let's hit calculate and see what we're going to get. So you can see with this we should get a V approach of 133, and the landing distance margin is around 500 meters with an actual landing distance of 2110 meters. Now with that in mind, 2110, let's have a look at our airport charts again, and we can see the distance down here to Sierra 2 is somewhere around 1800 meters. But since it is a rapid exit taxiway, we can vacate it with a speed of 55 knots or less. So Autobrakes 1 is going to be an acceptable autobrake setting for our landing today in order to maintain the least runway occupancy and be able to vacate the runway as quickly as possible. So we are going to select Autobrake low over here today. Now last but not least, this would finish up our setup. With that, we could go into the approach briefing and give our cabin PA, say bye-bye to our guests, and that's it. For the A320 pilots among you, I do have one additional piece of advice though. If you want to select a landing configuration 3, then in the A320 you would go up to the GPWS panel and select landing config 3. On the A330 you don't need to do that. The A330 does that automatically, and the GPWS is automatically going to be configured based on the landing flap config you have selected on the performance page. Alright, this concludes our descent preparation tutorial for the Airbus A330. I hope you have learned something today. Be sure to leave your feedback in the comments below and let me know if you have any other nice tricks that I haven't shown in this video just yet. As always, I'm looking forward to your inputs. Be sure to like, comment and subscribe, and if you really love what I'm doing on this channel, I would appreciate a small donation through the Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm looking forward to see you all again on the next one.